Hi guys, welcome to Smiley Says Crafts. I am here to show you how to kind of make your own fancy unicorn headbands. These can be used for favors or just if your kids really love unicorns and you want to kind of make this for them for the summer or for their birthday or for Christmas. So I couldn't find any videos on how to do this. I bought these really plain unicorn headbands on Amazon, which again, you could just use these and give these out as favors, but I really wanted to kind of make them fancier and make them a little bit prettier. So I was looking for videos on how to make something like this. And I had found some pictures, but I wasn't able to find any videos to show me how to do it. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. So some of the supplies that you're going to need to make this, obviously, is going to be the plain headbands. So these I got on Amazon. It was about an 18 pack and it was only about $12. So pretty inexpensive for that. Some of the other supplies you're going to need is going to be, this is going to be tulle. So this is on a 6-inch roll. So a 6-inch roll of tulle. I picked out a sparkly pink color here. And again, I found this on sale at my local craft store, so pretty inexpensive as well. And then obviously the last thing you need is going to be the flowers. So when we're looking at these flowers, thank you, you're going to see some of these that I got from a couple different places. So this one here, I actually was able to find at my local dollar store. There were 6 of these flowers on the stems are in a bunch. So I got 6 for $1 here. And then these I was also able to find at the dollar store. So these actually, there were 9 on each one of these. So you get a lot more for these, but they're a little bit smaller, a little bit less fancy than the other ones. So these are my 2 kind of like medium-sized flowers that I used for this project. And then you're going to need some smaller flowers. I tried getting bigger flowers than this, but it just didn't work on the headband. They were just too big. So then my small flowers, this one I actually found it again at my local craft store. So it came in this really large bunch. So I've already used 10 of these. So you can see that there were plenty on here. And these were obviously a little bit more expensive than the dollar store ones, but they were 60 or 70% off. So again, pretty inexpensive once I got my discounts. And then with how many actually came on this. And these little pretty ones. And then the last one I used going to be these. So these I actually already had. These were just kind of sitting up in my craft room. But again, you can find these at local craft stores, etc. So I have the smaller ones and then I have some bigger ones. So you're going to need about 2 bigger size flowers and then 2 of the smaller size flowers. Some of the other tools that you will need or you should kind of have to do this. A cutting mat. You don't need a cutting mat. Obviously, you can use just table, or you can use a piece of cardboard or something like that. But the cutting mat will make this so much easier, along with a straight edge. And again, you could just use a ruler. And then I have the cutter, the roller that cuts. This I bought for cutting fabric, but use it for a lot of other things as well. Again, you could use scissors, but it's going to be a lot easier if you have these 3 items. And then the last thing that you're going to need is going to be a glue stick to actually attach all of the flowers to this. So the first step in this is going to be measuring out your tulle. I chose to do 12 inches, and that kind of gave me this length. So when you're looking at this and you're looking at the length of this, that's how I got to about 12. This is 12 inches is what it would look like. So if you wanted kind of like a smaller length or shorter length, you would just make it a little bit less, maybe 8 inches. If you wanted them to be really long, you would obviously make them about maybe, I don't know, 14, 16, etc. So when we're looking at this, we're actually going to see, I'm going to be measuring out the 12 inches, but then I need to double it. And the reason for that is because we're going to be looping it around the headband. So we need to actually double the length. If I just cut it to the 12 inches, then my tool lengths would only be 6 inches each. So I'm just going to grab the 12, I'm just going to pull it down to 0, and then I'm just going to kind of double it up. You're going to try to make it as even as possible here when you're doing this. I'm just going to measure it, get my straight edge here, and then I'm going to cut them. So I already have some cut here. I'm just going to do this one really quick. You can see how it looks. So again, when you have a straight edge and you have the roller, it's so much easier because I already have my piece. It was that easy to do that. Now you're going to take this and you're going to leave it folded. So this is technically 24 inches long, and this is where it's looping right here, and then these two ends are open. And then I'm going to just turn it around, and then I'm going to cut 1.5 inch strips. And the reason I chose 1.5 inches is because this is 6-inch wide tool. So I was able to get 4 strips for each one. So I just kind of measured out 1.5. And I'm just kind of doing this backwards. So I'm starting with 6, going to 5.5, to 4.5. So I went 1.5 inches. And again, same thing, just gonna use my straight edge, my cutter, and just cut these strips. So again, it makes it so much easier if you have this, but you can use scissors. It would just be a little bit more difficult for that. You can also use maybe like a razor blade or something. I'm not sure. I've not tried that, but I'm assuming that you probably could. Once you actually have these strips, you're going to leave them folded. So I'm going to leave them just like this. And you're going to take your plain headband, and I'm going to take the side that's looped. So this is where it's actually attached to each other. And I'm just going to put it around one of the sides. So I'm going to choose just to do it around the ear at this point. So I'm just going to take it, and then I'm going to take the ends that are open. So you can see these two ends. These are the open ends here. And I'm going to loop it through the loop. So I'm just sticking it through the loop. And then I'm actually going to then stick it through this ear. And that'll just help me bring it to this side. And the reason for that is just because when you're pulling, it's a lot easier to do it from this side. So I'm just going to keep pulling. It's going to get stuck a couple times if you have these specific unicorn headbands. They do have these teeth on the inside. This makes it a little bit more difficult to get these completely tight. But you just got to keep playing with it. Just going to keep looping it around, pulling so that I can get it tight and getting it off of those teeth. Doesn't need to be 100% tight. You want it pretty tight, but it doesn't have to be extremely tight. So you can see here, now I actually have them. And you can see that these are actually lining up pretty good. It's okay if they don't line up completely, because you can see once you actually have them all done, they start to stick to each other, they start to wave, so you're not going to notice if they're not exactly even, but you want them to be pretty close. So if they're really off, you can always just undo it and then just re-put them on. Depending on the headband that you have is going to determine how many of these you want. I kind of just measured these out. So what I did was I did 2 here. I did 1 in this little small area. I did 3 where the horn is. And then I did another 1 here and then another 2 here. So for this project, I did 9 across here, but again, it's going to vary depending on what headbands you're using. You don't want them really sparse, but you don't want them extremely close together. I had gaps in between here, and that was okay because you don't want it to be too fluffy on this. You can kind of see that there are some gaps in here. So you can kind of see that there. Same with over here. So they're not completely tight, and I actually wanted it that way because I thought it was going to be too fluffy if I did that. So the next step is to actually putting the flowers on. So you're going to do this all the way across, and then you're going to be putting the flowers on. I laid out my flowers prior to actually gluing them on. So I actually sat here and kind of like looked at where I would want to put them. I sat them in a couple different places. So what I did was I was focusing on the larger flowers first. So this blue one right here, and then this white one right here. And then once I figured out where I wanted to put them, then I started to find spots to kind of fill in the gaps, basically, is what you're doing with the smaller ones. So when I'm looking at this, what I did, even once I had them laid out, I always glued on the 2 bigger ones first, because sometimes, you know, not all the flowers are exactly the same. So sometimes one of these would be wider than another one. So I wanted to make sure I got those 2 on first, and then I started to kind of just fill in the gaps. Now, if you're using these specific unicorn headbands, you can kind of show you where I glued them. So I glued the large white one to the outside corner of one of the ears, but closer to the horn. And then I glued this blue one, which was my other larger one, to the inside corner of the ear. Again, closer to the horn. And then the other 3, I just kind of, again, filled in. So these 2 smaller ones, the green and white ones, I kind of glued to the inside of the ear, but all the way on the outer edges. And then for this pink one right here, I just kind of chose somewhere in the middle of this horn. Sometimes I chose right in the middle. Sometimes I went a little offset, again, depending on these larger flowers and where I needed to fill in gaps here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these flowers, and again, this is the case for all of my flowers, and it should be for most fake flowers, is it's really easy. You're literally just going to, you can kind of see here's the stem and here's the flower part, literally just pulling it off. So I'm just popping off the actual flower portion of it. And then I'm going to be taking my glue gun. Again, so these ones I put here in this spot. And I'm actually going to put a piece of glue. So I'm going to actually put the glue here. I'm actually, for this, just to show you how to do this, I'm just going to pretend like I'm putting it here in the inside corner. So I put some glue and I'm putting it right on top of the tool, right on top of the headband. This will actually help get it to stay. And then I'm just going to stick it to the glue. So now this is actually sticking my flower to the tool and to the headband. This will allow it to kind of hold a little bit better. You're going to do this, again, all the way across in all your spots. And then once I was done, I actually went back and kind of just glued on top. So I just kind of went in, glued on the sides of these big ones, just to kind of make sure that they were pretty secure on there. I also, if I had any excess of the actual flower, the green part, I did kind of come back in here and using scissors just kind of cut them so that they weren't so wide. And that's it. That's how you actually are able to make these pretty fancy headbands just from these plain ones that I had bought online. If you have any questions, be sure to comment below. And be sure to subscribe if you liked this video. Thanks for watching Smiley Says Crafts.